You're listening to The Main Event with Zach Gelb and Mike Zahn on WHIP.
Welcome back, everybody. WHIP Radio in the city of brotherly love, Philadelphia. 215-204-WHIP is the number. We're getting you ready for Temple and USF that comes your way this Saturday, 7 p.m. And now joining us on the hotline is a man that played in the NFL as a tight end for many years, and now he's a fantastic college football analyst for ESPN, and that is Anthony Becht, who joins us right now. Anthony, Zach, and Mike here on Temple's campus. Thanks for a few minutes, and how are you?
You got it, guys. Doing great, man. How you guys doing?
Well, we're doing great, and we appreciate you giving us a few minutes today on what is a very busy schedule for you, because now you're a superstar at ESPN, going all around the nation doing games, and you're no longer just doing American Athletic Conference games. You're big time now, Anthony Becht.
Well, I'll tell you, I still follow the American Conference, and I feel like I've kind of watched, the teams like Memphis and Houston and Temple grow with some of their younger players, and obviously, they've done well for themselves.
Those college football rankings came out last night, and Temple has the AAC has 4 teams in the top 25. You get that national feel now, but you know what it's like to cover the American Athletic Conference teams. How are these teams in the AAC perceived nationally? Because I think they're on pace for the winner of that conference championship game to be in that New Year's Six Bowl.
Well, obviously, when you got to play these good teams have to play each other within conference, somebody has to lose, unfortunately, and that happened with Memphis in that Navy game. And Navy's a team that I think was really good that no one really was looking at because they hadn't had that signature win. And, you look at Temple, I think obviously nationally they gained tremendous respect for beating for hanging in there with Notre Dame and, being on the cusp, potentially upsetting them. So, I think there's a lot to play for. I think Houston right now is a team that everybody wants to root for just because if they can run the table and some teams can lose in front of them in the rankings currently, that they could potentially make some noise.
What impresses you about Coach Matt Rule? And when you have this much success and so many people are watching you nationally, people start to speculate if he's going to stay at Temple. Do you think Matt will stay, and what do you think people around the nation are saying about Coach Rule?
Well, I think they respect him. I think even before this year, I think he's done a tremendous job. I'm a big fan of Coach Rule. He's a young coach. He's fiery. He's not that – I don't think he's bought into that young – style, though, that, dancing around, which is all fun and stuff. But, he ties in some of the new elements of what's out there in college football, but still brings you that tough, hard-nosed coaching style that I think a lot of these kids need. And I think that they respect. There will be some teams that are going to obviously going to be giving him a call and gauging interest from him. And I think, number one, it's a tribute to what he's done. It's a tribute to the school of Temple. And unfortunately for Temple, what are they going to try to do to try to retain him? And I got to think, if there's boosters out there that are tied in with Temple and they see right now that they've seen several coaches over the last few years go up to bigger schools and leave, I think it might be time to try to pitch in and get something close, or at least try to extend him and make an offer that, maybe a little bit over what they would normally do. But, when you got a good one, man, he's doing a good thing. And I know he loves Temple. I know he loves Philly, and his wife's, works within the program. So, I think there's a chance, but there's obviously he's going to be courted for his services somewhere else.
You're right. He is an old-school coach with some new styles to him. You saw Ventel Bryant was celebrating after a touchdown on Friday night, and he made him do up-downs on national TV, a game that was broadcasted on ESPN. But you bring up him leaving, and the guy that he worked under here at Temple before he went to the Giants for a year was Al Golden. And Al went to Miami, and I thought Al, did an incredible job at Temple, but the Miami job was a job that didn't necessarily work out for him, and there was a lot of pressure there. Since Matt learned under Al, do you at all think that's in the back of his mind that if I'm going to leave, I have to take the right job and not put myself in a bad situation?
You're right. And, Al Golden was limited on his options, and Miami was a sexy job for him, but he kind of got out of his element. Here's a guy that's a Northeast kind of guy, recruiter. And when he went down to Miami, I think he kind of didn't have the proper people around him to kind of get that done. And there's obviously lessons to be learned. There's a lot of job openings. I think if you just look in general, how can I stay close to my recruiting base but still get a good job? And, if I were to throw a name out there, you just look at a Maryland job that's going to be backed by Under Armour that, is in the backyard of where he's recruiting. Is that a better job than Temple? I mean, look, long term, it's in the Big Ten. What are the goals of a coach? Obviously, you want to try to get as high as you can, but yet still be able to win at a program. So, I think in general, those are decisions he's going to have to make. But can you consistently win at Temple? That's the big question. And I think he had talent lined up in the proper way, proper positions to win. But I think he's recruited well. I think he's got players on that roster that are going to play well for him moving forward. And those are the questions he's going to have to look at and answer for himself.
We're talking to former NFL tight end and current ESPN College Football color commentator, and that's Anthony Becht. Anthony, you didn't grow up too far from Philadelphia. I believe you went to college around 2000. Temple was nowhere near the program they are now. You are way too good to play for the Temple Owls. But how amazing has it been to see this transformation since when you were a college student to now?
Well, I kind of laugh when you say that. I would have loved to go into Temple. They did not offer me when I came out of high school.
Really?
So Coach Dickerson was the coach, and I didn't get a letter from those guys.
What a bunch of dopes!
There's a lot of schools that obviously passed on me that didn't want me to come to their program, and I understand. I was kind of a project guy coming out of high school, but I think it's tremendous. They've obviously had some cycles. There's a tremendous amount of athletes in the Philadelphia, New Jersey, D.C. area that, you can pull from and really make a very good team. And I think, he's got kids buying in. And I think when those kids come and they visit and they see his energy and they see what they're doing and they see the kind of games that they have on their slate and how they're playing and an improved conference, I think it's definitely a positive for a school like Temple moving forward.
And currently, Temple has two pretty good major tight ends in Colin Thompson and Kip Patton. What have you seen in their games, and what do you like about their style of game at the tight end position?
Well, I think for me, I'm always looking for a complete tight end, who can go out there, catch balls, not only in space, but also in crucial situational times. Can you make the big third downs, move the chains, and then can you stick your face in there? And you don't have to be a great blocker. I think it's all about attitude. You look at the jerseys assignments when they go 1 through 9. I mean, those are the jerseys you want to get, and I think when you're selling that's kind of, you have to buy into that. So, those tight ends, I think they have a great opportunity to continue to work and get better. And when the opportunities come and they might be limited, you got to take advantage of those opportunities and just be a better complete tight end. And if you can continue to build that, I think them and any other tight end that plays in college football that gets those chances can be good.
Now, for the tight ends that play on Sundays, a lot of people like to look at the Rob Gronkowskis, the Jimmy Grahams, even though they are not your prototypical tight ends. How hard is it for a tight end on one play to be this big blocker and then the next to go out and try and catch a pass?
Well, I think, the big blocker days are gone. I think a guy like Gronkowski is someone I enjoy because he wants to do both, and I think he's passionate about catching a touchdown and making a big block. It's a dying breed. There's no question about it. But I also understand that there's, for certain offenses, there's a need for a certain type of tight end. So, I have no problem with tight ends that, split out in the slot and run routes like a Graham. I mean, I wouldn't put him in that wannabe kind of tough blocker in line, but that's not who he is. And he's a great athlete. And those basketball style bodies, those guys that can carry a lot of weight and stretch the field, those are kind of the breeds that teams are looking for because they can keep them on the field in those crucial passing downs. But for me, if you can keep Rob Gronkowski on first, second, and third down, those are the kind of guys I'm looking for, and they're limited. They're just not out there, especially in these offenses coming out of college.
You're right with Gronk, and he's a guy that I've talked to before, and he takes more pride in blocking than catching touchdowns, which is something that is very rare to see still at this stage of football that you're talking about. You were a pretty good tight end yourself. Is there any way you could stop Rob Gronkowski? Because I haven't seen it so far with him playing in the league.
Yeah, I'm amazed that every time I watch him play that the amount of free releases he gets off the line of scrimmage. I think sometimes you got to sacrifice one of your defensive ends for that extra second instead of just coming high quickly off the ball to just slam him or obliterate him off the line of scrimmage and then go. I mean, the fact that you don't want to attack him and get him off his route and get Brady off his timing, and you think, oh, that's the plan. I just don't see it enough, and it should be really done every single play. I mean, let other guys beat you. Now, Amendola and Edelman, those guys are very good. There's no question about it. But those big plays, those mismatches are with Gronkowski. And if you don't get him off his route, he's going to kill you. So I'm amazed right now watching the NFL that I don't see that more.
Wrapping up with Anthony Becht, who joined us on the hotline right now, WHIP Radio in Philadelphia. Getting back to Temple, though, their defense, you know how good they are, even from a national perspective. They played a very good game up against Notre Dame, having 2 red zone interceptions. But their struggle the last 2 weeks, their kryptonite, has been defending a mobile quarterback. They allowed Kaiser to go for 143 on the ground, and then last week against SMU, they allowed their quarterback to go for 102. Combined, that's 245. This week, they face a quarterback from USF that has 657 yards on the ground this year and 7 rushing touchdowns. What does Temple have to do better defending the mobile quarterback?
Well, I think there's an advantage because Flowers isn't the great passer that they would compete. And also, when you're going against offenses that spread it out, like in SMU, I mean, it's tough to get everybody to kind of close in and get those holes and those seams, those natural seams that you're going to have just because of that spread look. I think they're a very good defense. I think they're one of the top in the country. You talked about those 2 red zone interceptions. They should have had 3 on that last touchdown that Notre Dame scored. Phil Snow had them in the right situation. They had the safety rolled over. And to be quite honest with you, Kaiser had no business throwing that ball into that hole there because of that defense. But, they made a play and Temple didn't. So, I mean, look, I think the opportunities are there. Like I said, you spy this guy Flowers, you keep an eye on him, and you let him beat you with his arm, and you keep that body in there to kind of track him as he becomes a runner. And I think you can handle him. They're an improved team. There's no question about it. But, it's definitely a team that's going to be struggle against what Temple brings to the defensive table.
We love your football insight, so while we have you here, let's just talk Eagles for a quick second. Sam Bradford has been inconsistent this year. His interception numbers are high, and the Eagles only have 10 first-quarter points all season. Bradford, though, in that second half up against the Cowboys, was the best he's looked all year. Where's your confidence level in Sam Bradford?
Well, it'll grow as he gets, puts together those strings of good performances. I mean, the big thing for me was, all right, what are you going to do in a bye week? How's Chip and him going to kind of refine their passing game? How are they going to get the running game better, have better balance, and learn from what they've done in their first couple games? And I thought coming out against Dallas, I thought they were improved. And they caught the ball, and other players around them had good games. So those are all going to be key factors when you're talking about the Eagles' improvement. Bradford can't do it by himself, but you got to have a good mix, and I thought that was the best call game, I thought, of the year by Chip. And I just think right now you got to kind of parlay that off to what the defense is doing. I mean, right now in your position where your defense is playing pretty good right now, you got a good defensive line. You got to get this thing. You got to get this thing rolling. And I thought that was a good start coming out of bye against Dallas. They're going to be challenged the next couple of weeks, obviously, because there's no games in the bag. But I think they're in position to get themselves on the right track leading into that big game against the Patriots to find out where they really are.
That was the most impressive part. That offense was banged up. Jason Peters didn't play. They had a makeshift offensive line in the game. Matthews started catching footballs. But there was a little bit more pride on the line in this football game, and you could tell that by the comments of Lane Johnson after the game, saying he put extra mustard on his hits when he went up against Greg Hardy. Greg Hardy, to me, this story is just such a disgrace. I don't understand why the Cowboys continue to give this guy another shot and continue to give him words of praise, even after that snafu incident on the sidelines up against the Giants, and then Jerry Jones calls him a leader. Do you think Greg Hardy should be in the league following his domestic abuse incident?
Well, you know what? I'm never against guys getting second chances, but the problem is I don't see a lot of remorse out of this guy. I just don't see, outside of the tweet that he put out, this is way after the fact, like, where has this guy changed his life, a la we're watching Ray Rice, who doesn't get any opportunities to continue to change his life and work with these different organizations. I mean, what is Greg Hardy doing right now to show that, he has any respect for anything that went on in those months in that time where, he was, they were doing their case and building their case around it, and the charges were dropped. So, to me, that's the most disgraceful thing when you look at this. You get that chance, a team's willing to stick their neck out there. When are you going to do your part? And I think with that combination, it always is disappointing. And I'll tell you what, I don't see how you can sign this guy to a long-term deal, but we all know this in this game, guys. If you're a player of his caliber, he's always going to test those waters, and obviously the Cowboys are trying to do everything they do to back him and publicly and try to get him to be coming back for them.
This isn't the first time in the NFL that we've seen players get a second chance, but you're exactly right, and I agree with you 110% that he needs to show me remorse, and I don't think he's deserving of that second chance, and I think he's taking everything for granted. And you see the tweets that he sent out last night changing his Twitter bios. I really do believe that this guy just thinks it's a joke. There's a lot of good guys in the NFL, and it's a shame. A guy like you, there's a bunch of other guys. You go down during Super Bowl week, everyone's promoting their charity. During the year, there's a lot of good charity events, but it's tough to focus in on those good guys when week after week we see a story for the last 2 years about these bad criminal instances that happen. Is there anything the league can do more that they aren't doing now to get these guys that hit a woman out of the league?
I mean, yeah, there's no room for it. They shouldn't have them in there at all. I mean, listen, you said it best. I mean, this case is magnified. He's a bad apple in a group of 1,500, 1,600 guys that are obviously, doing the right thing. So, to me, they got to handle it appropriately. Obviously, they've made some mistakes. I know the NFL is trying to get it right. But at the end of the day, I'll say this, if you're taking it for granted and you feel like, it's not a big deal, it'll come back and get you somewhere else. So, I wish him luck. I hope he makes the most of his opportunity. But at the end of the day, man, you got to do the right thing. And I just don't see him doing that. And I think at some point it's going to catch up with him.
You saw Lane Johnson's comments, like I just alluded to a little bit earlier in this conversation, that he put some extra mustard on his hits. If you were going up against Greg Hardy, would you do the same thing because of everything you're reading and all these despicable actions?
Well, listen, I'll just say this. No matter who I was playing, that guy, I was trying to do the most I could within the realm of the legalities of blocking and in the game to inflict pain on a guy. So, I was a different time, a different era. I was a tight end that tried to, physically beat you up, within the play. And, he would just be another guy on the list, man.
Anthony, we appreciate the time today. Thanks so much. And let me just tell you one final thing before we let you run. Tell West Virginia to stay away from Matt Rule. We do not want him anywhere near your football program.
Now, I don't know. I might have to get on that bandwagon.
Please, it's not about your university. It's about our university. And we need our football coach here more than you need a new football coach from Temple.
I hear you, man. Hey, well, good luck. Finish the season strong. Good be on the show, guys.